I want to be clear with this. I do not believe in magic. I love science, I love history, I'm a realist. So, that makes it pretty hard to explain. What happened to me at last summer's medieval fair. I really love medieval fairs. I've been to quite a few. And every one of them usually has a royal tent where the king and queen can greet the fairgoers. These are the cast members that greet and welcome the newcomers to the kingdom. They'll issue quests to kids and knight them whenever they complete them. It's sort of a scavenger hunt. Well, last year's fair had 2 royal tents, but I'm getting ahead of myself. The weekend of the fair, the royal court was down a man. They needed a man to play the royal prince, and a friend suggested me. He already knew I had costumes I would wear when I went out and reenacted at one of these events. When the king would go to walk among the fairgoers, they would need a prince to stay behind and knight the kids that would come to the tent. I said yes. Should not have said yes. Prince Duncan. That was my character's name. Duncan. Didn't pay very well, but it was a good gig. So, I was telling you about the 2 royal tents. Well, this fair had a whole fairy court as well. That's F-A-E fairy, with a king and a queen. Phenomenal costumes, the best ones I've ever seen. They had this shtick going where the Fae were the real inhabitants of the land, and that the human court had imposed on the fairy court's land. Yeah, it was a riot. You know, just like Europeans coming straight in and taking land from Oklahomans. I'm pretty sure everyone got the irony. It was hilarious, until it wasn't. And if I could just go back in time and not say yes. The fairy tent had this huge circle of mushrooms around it. They looked pretty real, but they were big enough I assumed they were fake, until I tripped on one. It squished like any real mushroom. I looked around to see if anyone had noticed. I didn't want to lose this gig halfway through the weekend. But the fairy queen saw it. She screamed like a banshee, and her husband came running. Now you need to know he had this costume on like he was a satyr. A full Mr. Tumnus from Narnia. For goat legs, right? Until that point, I'd only seen him sitting on his throne. I had assumed his real legs were in the chair and the goat legs were fake. But he came running when his wife started screaming at me. They were real. They were real. The fairy queen was just screaming, "Look what he's done! Look what he's done!" 1 minute, I'm just kneeling there trying to get the mushroom back together while she's screaming at me. And then it just gets very weird. Seriously weird. You know that dream that everyone has where you're naked in a big crowd? The feeling of just complete exposure. That's what it felt like, but I was wide awake. I suddenly could feel a draft all over. All over. And I become very hungry. I was climbing over everything around, just looking for food. And it was a fair, so there was popcorn and corn dogs around. Even the wooden sticks of the corn dogs tasted good. Not very proud of that. Best fair food ever. Someone gave me a mostly eaten turkey leg and I ate the whole thing, even the bone. It's like I had a tapeworm or something. I was so hungry. And there was this little kid in the Fae King's tent who got a platter full of food that he kept giving me. Sweetest kid ever. And he was just hugging me, saying, "It'll be okay, it'll be okay." He led me all over the fair, and people were just laughing at me. It really gave a guy a complex, right? I assumed he was the son of the Fae King because he had goat legs, and his looked pretty real too. So later, at the end of the fair, there was this lady arguing with the Fae King, and she kept pointing back at me. Next thing I remember, I'm waking up in the Human King's tent, not feeling very well. Everyone was looking at me like they were worried. I had a massive stomach ache and a bit of a headache. My crown didn't fit my head anymore. And when I took it off, there was a big chunk right out in front. I know what you're thinking. It is the only thing that makes sense. When I was putting the mushrooms back together, I must have absorbed something through my skin, and then just hallucinated the rest. That's what I thought for a while. But there were people there at the fair who knew me. They swear they saw the Fae King turn me into a goat. But if they didn't also get the mushroom on them, then what happened? Maybe it was a group hypnosis or a mass delusion or something. But then how do I explain this? I've got some bumps on my head that aren't going away. Keeping my hair a bit longer can hide them well enough. There's even a video of a goat wearing a crown, my crown, at the event. Being led around the fair on a rope. It was a screaming goat too, because man could it wail. It fainted every time the little goat boy let it past the Fae King's tent. It'd just fall over. The fairy court found that hilarious. I saw in the newspaper a picture of the goat chewing on Prince Duncan's crown. The crown I was wearing. Which suddenly made sense with my stomachache resolving itself 2 days later. I saw online that the Fairy King and Queen are going to be back this year, which I don't understand. Sure, they're entertaining, but anything, and I mean anything, can happen. I do not believe in magic. I never have. But after last year, I do believe in fairies. Come see us at the King's Medieval Fair. I saw that the Fairy King and Queen will be back this year, so I won't be.